Hi, you guys. How are you?
Hi,
Can you see and hear
doing
me?
well. Yep, I can.
Good. Hello, other person. Hi. Well, I'm Liz, and thank you for being here. And I don't know if anybody else is going to join us, um, but I wanted to put this together because a lot of people have been asking me about divorce mediation, and I thought I would try to make myself available to answer questions that people have or talk people through the process or talk about how to prepare for it. And so maybe while we're sitting here waiting for people, um, if you have any questions that you want to throw at me right now, we can start talking about anything that you guys want to learn about.
I
Are
don't
you
have any specific questions. Oh, sorry.
okay? Are you preparing for a mediation? Are you? Yeah.
Likely, I'm not that far yet.
Okay.
We were supposed to have our status conference on Friday, but it got
Mhm.
canceled because of the weather.
Yeah.
So I'm still in the early stages, but likely.
Okay.
So I just wanted to learn because I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Are you in Colorado?
Yes.
Okay. Are you other people in Colorado?
Yes, I'm from Colorado. I'm still trying to
Okay.
learning the whole process of a divorcing. I just kind of start to gather all the informations all together to see how to start.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Hi, John. Hello. It's okay if you don't want to talk or be on. All right.
Hello. Hello, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, yeah. Hi,
Thank you.
I'm in Texas, in fact. I'm in Dallas.
Oh, okay. All right. Are you about to go through mediation or are you just kind of
Y-
curious?
Yeah, we just finalized our temporary orders like a week ago.
Okay.
We're hopefully heading into mediation next month.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, good. Um, Well, maybe what I'll do here, as soon as I get my act together, is just talk a little bit about mediation in general, um, and what I like about it, and what you can achieve in mediation, and some ideas for preparing for it. Um, it's a really powerful um, process if it's done right. Oftentimes, I hear people have had bad experiences, and that always makes me really sad because it's an opportunity for parties who are in conflict, whether you're going through a divorce or, neighbors or small businesses or whatever, to get together with a neutral third party to brainstorm and negotiate collaboratively and look at all of the different options, and talk through them and find a resolution that feels empowered for everybody rather than just one party. And also it's another way to help you stay out of court in Colorado. If you have kids and you're going through a divorce, they're most certainly going to send you to mediation. I don't know about in other states, but it's it's often your last chance to really resolve issues on your own before having to go to court. And of course, there are many perils of going before a judge, um, for a decision, for an outcome, for a settlement. You never know how that's going to roll. Everybody is taking their chances, and 9 times out of 10, when people come out of a courtroom, everybody feels like they got screwed, not just one person. So it's a lot more empowering, certainly, than going to court. There are different kinds of mediation, obviously. Like I said, a lot of people are ordered to go to mediation, whether it's divorce or small claims or civil. Some people choose to work with a mediator, again, in divorce or for other reasons. I work with couples very often through the whole process, not just the one and done court ordered mediation, but I, sort of walk the process with them from beginning to end and help them on a lot of different levels. Obviously, when you're going through a divorce, there's a lot of things to consider. There's the legal aspects of it. There's family aspects, parenting plan, co-parenting. There's what to do with the house. There's how you're going to divide your assets and how to divide your debt. All of those things obviously bring up really big emotions. Even if you start the process relatively amicably, the emotions that come with a divorce process can be all over the place. And if those emotions are driving your decisions and driving your behavior, that can really lead to escalation really quickly, and communication breakdowns, and a longer divorce and a more expensive divorce, and a litigated divorce. A lot of people think you have to have attorneys when you go through a divorce, but that's not actually true. Sometimes you really do need attorneys, but very often, in fact, most often, people do it themselves. That's called a pro se divorce. And that's not always advisable, especially if you do have children or if you have, complicated finances, because you're leaving yourself open to making mistakes that you won't be able to go back and repair, and that are hard to untangle post-divorce. So if you can, again, come to a mediation or any part of the divorce from a regulated standpoint where you aren't being triggered, where the other party isn't being triggered, you're going to be able to access that wise part of your mind. You'll be able to use your logic instead of your emotion to make decisions and to engage in any kind of conversation. So having said all of that, do you guys have any questions right now? Divorce mediation is, like I said, it's a very empowering process, or it can be. It certainly should be. Another really cool thing about it is that it is confidential. Everything that happens in mediation stays in that space unless it gets written up into a form or a stipulation or a memorandum and gets submitted to the court, and then it will become public. But otherwise, everything in there stays very private. Nothing that you can say can be used against you. Mediators can't be subpoenaed. So it also has this benefit of being very private. And sometimes that allows parties to be more vulnerable, to be able to speak more openly about their feelings, or even to apologize, and they don't have to worry that that's going to be held against them if they do go to court. What else can I tell you about the mediation process that's important to know? It's if you approach a conflict rather than through litigation in court, but through mediation, again, you're more likely to get an outcome that feels as close to fair as it can. Nobody ever feels like divorce is fair, but everybody who I talk to tells me that they want their divorce to be fair. They just want what's fair. And that is like a perfectly normal, understandable approach to have. Most people don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a divorce. Most people don't want to have endless post-divorce conflicts, especially if they're co-parents. If you have kids, the last thing you want is for your divorce to make things worse than they were before, because you're going to be co-parenting with this other person until the day you drop dead. That's never going to go away. So you have this opportunity in mediation where you're working with a neutral third party whose job it is to provide a safe space and an opportunity for you guys to explore, to make plans, to make a parenting plan. And ideally, and certainly in situations where I get to work with couples for more than one session, you get to build new communication patterns. You get to learn a new way of approaching conflict. And ideally, by the time you're through with the process, you have not only a settlement and a parenting plan that you guys can feel good about, but a new way of dealing with each other, one that is less emotional and more business-like. When you decide to mediate, or you're told by the court or attorneys that you're going to have to mediate, it's also really important to find a mediator that both of you feel comfortable with. It's a very personal decision. I'm a really specific kind of mediator. There are other kinds of mediators who are attorney mediators, and they come with their attorney mindset. They might be more directive. They might be less touchy-feely. They might be more of like, all right, let's just get this done, and almost like horse trading. If you say 500 and I say 400, where are we gonna meet in the middle, right? That is obviously a part of a negotiation and a part of a mediation, but it's important that you choose somebody who you feel comfortable with, because it's a three-way relationship, and there needs to be trust on all sides so that you can feel comfortable making proposals and receiving proposals and saying something that might feel very vulnerable. So if you are in the market for a mediator, just know that there are all different kinds of mediators, and most of them will talk to you for free. And both of you should talk to the mediator and ask them questions and feel them out. Most of us charge around the same amount, so it shouldn't be like there's not normally, certainly not around here in Colorado where I live, not like a huge variation in price. There's mediators that the courts can direct you to. In Colorado, we have an Office of Dispute Resolution, and they'll have a list of mediators. You can also contact your local Mediators Association. We have what's called the MAC in Colorado, the Mediation Association of Colorado. So there are lots of ways of identifying them. If you're already working with attorneys, you might have your attorneys trying to guide you towards a mediator. And just remember, in this situation and all situations, when you have an attorney, they are going to want to approach things in a very specific way. They tend to be more directive. They might say, okay, this is a mediator that we want to use. Just remember that it's your money, right? And it's your divorce, and it's your choice. And if that person doesn't feel aligned for you, you don't have to use that person. When you get to the point where you have a mediation scheduled, often if it's court ordered, it's sort of towards the end of the process. You may have some things resolved and some things that you still can't settle on, right? Whether it has to do with a parenting plan or what you're going to do with the house or whatever. There are lots of opportunities to make sure that the money that you spend in mediation is well spent, or is as well spent as possible, whether you're working with an attorney or doing something else, doing it on your own. So one of the most important things that you can do when you're going into mediation is to know what you're talking about, right? I have people often who come in and they don't have enough information. They haven't really thought through why they're there. So spend time either by yourself, with a friend, with a coach, with your attorney, identifying what your agenda items are going to be in mediation. Because especially if you both have attorneys, because if you go into mediation with two attorneys, that is really expensive, right? Because you're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour. And you don't want to waste time when you go in there, like diddling around talking about stuff that doesn't matter. And you want your mediator to really be able to be right on top of things when you go in there, not asking you like the names of your children or how you're doing today. That's the way I felt in my mediation. I was like, this is costing me almost $1,000 an hour, and I don't want to talk about the names of my children. You know, I want to get right into it. So come prepared with agenda items, come prepared with proposals. This is a really good opportunity to put forth a proposal, to engage in actual negotiation. Be ready to receive proposals. When somebody offers a proposal, it can often feel like an insult, right? Or what are you crazy? That's never gonna, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. And I really advise trying also to come in with an open mind and a flexibility in problem solving, and a ability really to listen, right? With attention and respect, even if you don't feel it from the other party. When you listen to somebody and you're not putting up like, no, that's a terrible idea, it's also going to help them regulate. It's going to help them feel more comfortable. And the more everybody is comfortable, the more ground you're going to cover successfully. So really come with your ears open. In addition to, your agenda items, your proposals, your documentation. Don't come into mediation without the things that you need in order to make decisions or hear a proposal or make a proposal. So you probably want to bring your both sworn financial statements in, right? If you're working on a parenting plan, download the parenting plan from the court's website and fill it out in your ideal way, right? That might not be the end result. That might not be the parenting plan that you end up with. But if you already have gone through the thought process of, okay, so now we have to figure out what are we going to do on holidays? Think it through, right? Read up on it. Read up on different ideas for how co-parents manage spring break, or whatever holiday or summer. Think about things that are really important to you that might not be on that parenting plan. The parenting plan that the court sets out is very basic. It kind of covers the main things, but it doesn't cover all the possible things. And the cool thing about a parenting plan is that you can make it be almost whatever you want, as long as it's actionable, it makes sense, and it's in the children's best interest. So you might have a little list of things that you want to add to it, like parties are going to agree not to be drunk when we're parenting our children, or sort of guidelines around meeting a significant other and when you're going to introduce your children to that person, or social media. When are you going to let your kids get their first phone, and when are they going to be allowed to go on social media? What other, food things, if you both have really important things that you want to put in there. Having said all of that, also remember that once you are divorced and you're living in two separate homes and you're co-parenting your kids, you don't really have a lot a lot of say in how the other parent parents your child, right? You can't tell the other parent um, they're only going to eat organic at your house, or they're going to go to bed at 7 at your house. You don't get to say that. You can ask, and if obviously you have come out of this divorce with a relationship that allows collaboration and problem solving, then you know that hopefully won't be that much of an issue. But again, going back to preparing for mediation, certainly if you're working on a parenting plan, come with your ideas, things that you want to include, and just know that if you include it for them, they're probably going to ask that it be included for you too, right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm going to take a break here. I am really bad with technology, and I want to see if this is streaming on my Facebook page to see if anybody's there and has any questions, but I don't even see where that is. If anybody's really awesome at this, maybe you can let me know.
Hi, Liz. This is Miranda, and I was on your Facebook, and it was streaming there, and I figured out how to do it here too.
Oh, okay. Is it on my business
It's on your
page?
personal
Oh, I see.
as
Oh,
a
I
live
see it now. Oh, okay.
video.
Got it. Okay. Oh, hi. Okay. Got it.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
let you know.
Okay. Now I see it. Um,
I have a couple of questions, please, Liz.
yeah, of course.
The first one regarding like how would the mediator, get up to speed with the case? Like, do they meet with the lawyers ahead of time, or do I need to meet with the mediator first?
Yeah, I would. That's a great question.
Uh, j- and my second question also is about the setup. Like, do we agree on a venue, and then like each person would be in a separate room, and the mediator would go back and forth with the lawyers, or yeah. I was
Yeah.
just wondering how it works.
Yeah, those are such good questions. So to your first question, how does the mediator get up to speed? So when I'm mediating, I want both parties to be in touch with me. I offer a free consultation because I want to talk to both parties to make sure that we vibe, to make sure that they feel comfortable with me and to tell me what they think is important, right? And obviously, you're going to get one story from John and a different story from Jane, but any information that you get is going to help you as a mediator understand what the issues are, whether they're emotional or their communication or their financial or or otherwise, or just where they are in the divorce process. So if you are interviewing mediators, that would be a really good question for them. If they're open to talking with you, I also ask people that I'm working with to send me information. So that could either come from the attorney. Often if there's an attorney that you're working with, they'll send the mediator a little statement or something. But it's handy to have, sworn financial statements, for example, or the draft of the parenting plan, or proposals, or again, anything that's not overwhelming, but that is instructive, so that mediator can come in, with a good sense of what's going to be talked about, what the lay of the land is, and hopefully so that you don't have to spend a lot of time in mediation, covering a lot of backstory, right? If you don't send those documents to the mediator, if you don't feel comfortable sending them a sworn financial statement or whatever, make sure you have it on hand so that you can reference it, right? So that you know how much you have in the bank account, or what the house is worth or whatever. and you don't have to like fiddle around and you know, try to find it and so forth. The other question is what does mediation look like? And that is another question that can be answered with a very unuseful answer, which is it depends, but it really does. The going back and forth is called shuttle mediation, and especially in high conflict divorces, that might be advisable. So whether you're in breakout rooms in a Zoom call, or you're, you know, in an office and you know, you and your attorney and the other spouse and their attorney are in separate, you know, conference rooms, and the mediator is going back and forth. That can be very cumbersome. And it's not always ideal because it is cumbersome. It takes more time. You're depending on the mediator to translate ideas and hope that they're doing a good job of it. And when I have to do that, what I try to do is take the essence of what someone's saying, peel out the stuff that doesn't matter, like, well, she's just a bitch, and I know she's not gonna, you know, and she did this last year and blah, 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 blah. You don't bring that, you know, because that's not gonna help anybody. You say, he's, you know, he's making this offer. Or here's how he feels about yours and wants to know, how do you feel about blah, 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 right? But again, like I said, if there's a lot of conflict, and if you put two parties together that can't even stand the sight of each other and are just gonna just like get in it and back in their old like conflict cycles, putting people in separate rooms is a good idea. You can mediate without attorneys. Obviously, I do it most of the time. When you have attorneys with you, for me as a mediator, sometimes it makes it even more challenging because they tend to dominate, and the parties just sort of sit back. And a lot of what mediation is or can be is understanding each other, right? Having a safe place with boundaries to share what your interests are, what the issues are underneath the position, rather than just, I want this, right? Often these positions are just like the tip of the iceberg and really not the most important part. The important part can be underneath. You know, like, it's important for me to have the kids in this schedule because, you know, a work issue, or, you know, Thursday afternoon was always our day together and I don't want to lose that day, right? Rather than I have to have Thursday, and that's, you know, and that's final. So regardless of whether or not you're doing it in the same room or separate rooms, or whether you're doing it on your own or with attorneys, going back to what I was saying earlier, if you are able to come in sort of with an open mind and an open heart, you might learn something, and open ears, right? And it might not be what you wanted to learn, but it might also give you insight into the other person's strategy, right? Or insight into what's important to that other person, right? But if you're just fighting and you're just like so angry, you can't even process information, you're going to miss out on a lot of really important stuff. And that goes back to, you know, again, preparing for mediation. The other piece of that is preparing emotionally, right? Sometimes people want to bring, you know, phone a friend in with mediation just to help them listen, think of questions, process. And sometimes that's really great. It really depends on the other party and the mediator and that specific situation. But being able to stay emotionally regulated can really be key and can make the difference between a successful mediation and one that just like ends in tears and nobody's figured anything out and you just spent a ton of money. So if you think that's going to be an issue, try to prepare yourself in whatever way makes sense for you, whether it's like doing somatic exercises and deep breathing, or um, you know, having a session with a therapist or a coach before you go in, or having something on hand, whether some tool on hand to help you stay calm. You can always take a break in mediation if you need to. If things are getting really crazy, just know that you can also always take a break, even if you're paying for that time and it feels pressing. If you are able to take a break and like regroup, you're gonna the time after that is going to be more effective. Another thing that can be really important when you go into mediation is really understanding what's realistic, what the laws are, and what you can realistically expect and ask for, right? Often people come into mediation wanting something, like determined that they're going to get it because it's fair, that they're never going to get if they go to court. And there's not a lot of point in spending a lot of time in mediation demanding something that's not possible or that's not reasonable. Do you know what I mean? And in order to know what that is, it really helps to know. And this is where having an attorney on hand is very helpful, because you can bounce these things off of them. And if you have a good attorney, they're going to give you the truth and not blow a bunch of smoke, right? They're going to say it's not realistic for you to get full custody. The other parent isn't abusive. Just because you've always been the primary parent doesn't mean the other parent shouldn't have any parenting time, for example, right? Or you're not going to get all the equity in the house because that's not an equitable division of your assets. So don't even go in there fighting for that. I'm going to just stop and see if anybody has any other questions before I just carry on here.
Hey Liz, I have questions.
Yeah.
So for mediations, you think that's be more, so whenever I'm ready to divorce, I'm pretty sure my husband don't want to divorce. So I'm gonna serve the papers.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, was I even like sort of use like a mediations, or just have to go through like attorney directly? Because like he don't want to divorce, but I do. We don't have a kids together. We only have the dogs, and I have the investments, properties, and a house together.
Okay. That's a really good question too. It's tricky. Mediation is only gonna work if both parties can show up. You know what I mean? Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. If someone's like, I'm not interested in mediation. I'm going to show up because the judge said so, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to agree on anything. When you are in the process before you in the time period before you file, you're not alone, right? Many divorces are filed by people who want a divorce, but their partner doesn't, right? And in Colorado, at least, it doesn't matter if the other party doesn't want to get divorced. If you want a divorce, you can get a divorce, right? And in an ideal world, you would both petition together, you would be co-petitioners. But if that other party is like, no, I'm not going to do it, then the next thing you would do would be filing on your own and having the other party served, right? And that once that process is completed, the rest of the divorce process plays out exactly the same as if you had filed jointly. It's just another couple of extra steps and forms and a little bit of extra money to pay somebody, a process server, whatever, to take the papers to your spouse and say, here, now, here are the papers. You're required to, file a response. So, if you think that mediation would help get the other party on board with the idea of divorce, you know, it could, in the same way that like working with a therapist might be able to. Is that what you were asking? Is that helpful?
Yeah, I just like I say, I'm still kind of learning how to process, but I mentioned to my husband a couple of times about like I truly want a divorce for all kind of reasons. And he pretty much just avoid the conversations. Um and so I was just like, well, if he's already kind of avoid the conversations or like, oh no, you're not gonna divorce, is that even worse to try the mediation? Because like in that case, I don't feel he want to participate if like say I have mediators try to book the sections together saying we can kind of sit down and talk, and he just like, no, I'm not going.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so once you're like, I'm gonna file, you can file with me or I can serve you papers. What would you prefer? And he says option A or option B, and you get the ball rolling and you get the paperwork filed with the court, then there's this decision between the two of you about what kind of divorce you want to have, right? Um, and even if there's a party who doesn't want to get divorced and didn't want it and is pissed off about it, they um, if they're able to um, see the logic behind it. I've seen instances where they get on board with mediation because of the benefits of mediation over litigation. So, for example, it's private, it's confidential. You're not airing your dirty laundry in public. It all happens in here. It's a lot cheaper than litigating. When I help couples through the divorce process, it's a couple of $1,000s, more or less. When you both hire attorneys, you're going to be looking at spending 12, 15 $1,000 per person or more. Um, the cost is the cost difference is significant, and a lot of times that's enough to motivate somebody to want to try to work it out in mediation. Another thing that can be very compelling, even if somebody doesn't want to get divorced in the first place, is that you maintain control over the process and the outcome that you won't have if you go to court. Like we were talking about at the beginning, if you decide that you're going to litigate and you're not going to work together and things don't work out in mediation and you end up having to go to court, you have a very short period of time to show your case to the judge or the magistrate and hope that they hear what you're saying and they side with you as best they can. Obviously, they have to work within the confines of the laws and how they interpret the laws, and then also their own, personal idiosyncrasies, right? They might not like women. They might be having a bad day. They might just not like the sound of his voice. They're not supposed to have these kinds of prejudices, but they're human, right? So the point is, when you go to a judge, you're really, you're putting your money, your children, your assets, your future in the hands of someone else that you don't know. So there's a huge risk there. And so that, there are things that you can tell somebody about mediation that might motivate them to want to give it a try at least. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Does anybody else want to talk about anything?
Hi, this is Miranda.
Hey.
I thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I am wondering, well, you want us to, you were saying to come prepared, but I'm wondering if there's something that I can do on my end to not waste your time, and mine and his, of course, to get like divorce for dummies questions answered before I
Mhm.
come, like FAQs, like what you mentioned something about going to the courts page and looking up parenting plans, which I've done before. But like, as far as telling us like how long it might take to get divorced, or like what you need to have, like when you say financial statements, I honestly don't even know what you mean. Like
Mm, okay.
that kind of, like,
Yeah.
what's have ready in a folder when I come to you.
Yes. That is really like, I'm so glad that you spoke up because sometimes I forget even that, if we're talking about a sworn financial statement, you've never heard of that before. You have no idea like what context it is.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
a tenant. I mean, I'm anti homework.
yeah. So, well, for ladies, you can look for second Saturday workshops near you.
Okay.
Um, that's a organization that has chapters all over the place on the second Saturday of the month, and usually they'll have like an attorney, a mediator, a
Okay.
CDFA, a mortgage specialist that giving presentations about divorce in the state where they are, right?
Okay.
So you can get a lot of information.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and there are other similar types of workshops that you can go to. Um, the reason, for exactly the same reason that you brought up your comment is why I wrote something that I'm kind of finishing up right now, which is essentially Divorce for Dummies. Like in Colorado, it just like walks you through, here's what you do first, then you do this. This is what this is. This is how you find out this information. This is what a sworn, here's how you fill it out. Here are more resources so that you can kind of like orient yourself, right? And have something to access that's written in plain language so that it's just easy to process rather than, like you said, going to the court website, which has a ton of information, but it can be really hard to navigate. And it can be, if you like, for example, if you just go type in sworn financial statement, it might take you to that form, but it won't put it in context for you, right?
Right.
Um, won't tell you how to fill it out. So,
And I'm not looking for something to replace somebody like you, because honestly, I feel like I could make that a large enough mistake, in my thing to be able to pay for you in the end. You know what I mean? Like the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes. Like I would
yeah,
just rather extra days and pay. That's me personally,
yeah,
but I don't want to waste anyone's time, mine either. But I want to understand
yes.
what to bring. So that is where I would start. And I got overwhelmed at the court thing, like you said, because
Mhm.
know I printed off some stuff and I tried to fill it out and I got halfway through it and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. So I
Yeah,
stopped and I
yeah,
just sitting here for months. Like
yeah,
where do I start?
right. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of work that I do as a mediator and also as a coach. I got a lot of extensive training as a divorce coach because I know that people need that, right?
Okay.
Um, if you never been divorced before, or even if you have, like for example, I was just talking to a couple, both of them had been divorced, but it had been almost 30 years and everything has changed, right? And they might as well never have gone through that process because it's so different now. And like I said at the top, it's so multi-layered, right? There are all of these different components, and when you are going through it, it can really make you feel like you're drifting around at sea, right? And you don't even know where the land is. You don't know in which direction you should start swimming. That's the way that I felt when I went through my divorce. Like, and I had an attorney, I had people helping me, but I was still like,
That's the exact
I
analogy
don't
I've,
even understand that language. So,
yeah,
and
that's the exact language I've used. Being on the
yeah,
committee, not knowing what to do.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly.
so
But
you're
yeah.
right.
Hmm?
That's kind of like bullet points for your people, all, but alongside also, with your services too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my goal in everything I do is to try to make it really understandable for people and really easy. And I think about myself when I went through my own divorce, and I try to provide what I needed or what I wanted, in in a in a way that's like digestible, right? And it's just calm and just chill. Um, and just low drama, because nobody needs a lot of drama. Um, so I'm going to cover one more thing that, I'd like to share with you about mediation, that can be helpful when you get to that point. And that is communication, right? Whether, especially in mediation, but also when you're going through a divorce, right? It is very easy and tempting to, really let go, and send a, 5-page email about, you did this last year and then you did, proving, your point, and um, trying to share your feelings and share your hurt. And so often that does not achieve any objective other than to make the other party escalated, right? And that's how things go, like, you want to be heard. You're angry and you're scared. And that's the way, a lot of us react, is by having big emotions and big feelings and big behaviors, right? And it's okay to have those, but if they inform your communication with your attorney, like if you send your attorney a 5-page email about all the different ways you've been aggrieved, but it doesn't have specifically anything to do with the divorce itself, you are wasting your money. Do you know what I mean? You're wasting your money if you go into your attorney's office and cry, about he cheated or she had an affair or whatever. Yeah, that sucks. But in the whole framework of divorce, does not matter, because it's, we have a no fault state here. Nobody's going to care about your sad feelings. In terms of like the divorce professionals. And, obviously, if you're working with a therapist, that's the place for that. So it's really important to learn how to communicate effectively. And again, to keep your emotions regulated. So if you have a co-parent and you have to figure out what you're going to do on the weekend, and communication is strained, just take everything extraneous out, right? Um, Johnny has a soccer game on Saturday. I know that normally X, Y, or Z would happen, but because of this, X, Y, or Z needs to happen. And then, just state facts almost as if you're recording the facts with a video camera, and then make a very simple request. Can you pick them up here rather than there, right? Don't put in, you're always late. You never pick people up from soccer. I've always, just leave all of that out. That is one of the simplest things that you can do to improve your communication. Same goes when you're in a mediation. Save all of the extraneous stuff for your group of friends or your support group, and keep really tight to your agenda items that you've already thought through. You might want to send those agenda items to the mediator. I want to talk about summer schedules. I want to talk about, whatever it is that's still outstanding. Remember again that mediation is a kind of negotiation, right? There are a lot of negotiation skills that you can employ to very good effect. And one of the most powerful is using this tactic that is called tactical empathy. Oh, I'm sorry. So there are these things called mirror neurons, right? So like if somebody yawns, then you'll yawn, right? And it's like very subtle and it's in there. If someone is like making an angry face, it makes you want to make an angry face. But if you're calm and you use a nice calm voice, it will help the other person stay regulated. And again, if both of you are regulated, you can hear each other. If someone is making a proposal and in your mind you're like, I'm never going for that, try to find 10% of what they're saying that you can agree with, right? You can always find at least 10%. And start with that rather than that is the most insane idea. How that's not even going to work. What I don't even know why you're insulting me with, right? Don't do that. That's just not getting you anywhere. Go instead, okay, there's 10% of, oh, okay, so what I really like about your idea is, you obviously care about Johnny and his ability to get to soccer. What if, and then you add on to it, right? So you're building a collaborative approach. You're building a bridge rather than knocking down a wall. If you put up a wall or they put up a wall and you push on it, this is, you're going to be wasting your energy and your time and your money. So being able to show up with empathy, even if you don't feel it, right, will really help grease the wheels, right? Listening is a really critical thing. If somebody is allowed to talk, and the mediator should be shutting people down if they get off on a tangent and just get hysterical, right? So be able to listen, nod, show what Bill Eddy calls ear, which is empathy, attention, and respect. Even if you don't feel it, you're going to, at the very least, hear what their thought process is, right? Will give you insight into their strategy or their idea or what's important to them. And if you are in your regulated wise mind, you can take that information and use it when you make a counter proposal, right? If someone's saying, it always makes me, I'm so angry when this, and you didn't, and blah, 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 rather than arguing with them, say, it sounds like, it feels like, it looks like. You're repeating back to them. Sounds like you don't feel like I can, blah, blah, blah. When you do that, they're going to say, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that. Then you're making a connection. You're not shutting them down. If someone is talking and you want to draw them out, saying the last 3 words of what they've said will encourage them to keep talking. Keep talking? Yeah, it's going to encourage. Do you see how that works? And if you keep them talking, again, you can gather a lot of information from them. And you're helping them feel less, up here, you're helping them feel kind of down here. So these are like basic negotiation tactics that work in mediation and in other places. And again, especially if you have children, building new skills around conflict resolution or conflict transformation and communication will serve you not just in mediation, but well beyond that.
I'm I'm sorry, I missed the third point that you talked about to keep him talking.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, if your partner or spouse is like going on and on about why she wants to do X, Y, or Z, or why she wants the house or wants more of your 401k. No, wait, I'm really tired. Yeah, retirement plan. Um, and you're learning information about why she has the position that she has. If you want somebody to keep talking, you can use the technique that Chris Voss gave us, who wrote this book called Never Split the Difference. And I would, if you haven't read it, I would advise reading it or going online and looking at any of his videos or listening to any of his podcasts about negotiation, because he's sort of like amazing. But you repeat the last three words that someone said. Yeah, you repeat the last three words that they said, and then they'll keep talking. Do you see like how that works? It really does work, and most people don't recognize it when you do it. You can get them to
I
keep,
got it. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
Is that what you're thinking about?
Yes, yes, that was my
Okay.
question. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to sign off soon. But before I do, I just want all of you to know that if you want to talk more about this, please reach out to me. We can get on a Zoom call together, and I will answer any specific questions that you have. If you
So,
want resources, I have a ton.
besides being a mediator, Liz, what other services do you provide?
I am a divorce coach. I referenced that earlier. I don't do as much of it as I would like to because it's still relatively new. It's a new field, and a lot of people still think that like coaching is kind of wooey and BSy, especially attorneys. But
Right.
as a divorce coach, I support individuals rather than couples, right? So, I'll help them prepare documentation. I'll help them with their communication. I'll help them with their emotional regulation. I'll help them prepare for mediation, prepare to go talk to their attorney, answer basic questions that you might go to your attorney for. That's going to cost you $100 to get the answer from. You know what I mean? It's not taking the place of an attorney, but if you have a good divorce coach, that you're using wisely, that will save you money in the long run, even though you're putting out an initial outlay for, you're paying somebody else. But in this case, penny saved is what is it? Pound, penny
Penny
wise,
saved.
pound foolish.
Oh.
Is that right? Anyway, one of those.
Do you would you say you would do coaching and mediation at the same
Yeah.
time?
No. If I start coaching someone, then I couldn't show up as a neutral in mediation, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm just pulling up my calendar link. The other thing that I do is I really, really, really want people to know that they don't have to have a horrible divorce. They don't have to go to court. They don't have to hire attorney. Sometimes you do have to hire an attorney, especially when there's abuse. But there's too much really horrible, rampant, unhealthy conflict in the divorce space and in our culture in general. And I I just want to kind of be out there doing my part to help people navigate all of this stuff. And not have to spend $18,000 on a divorce or have to take out a loan like I did. Because, at the end of the day, that's money that most people need, right? To put a down payment on another house or,
I
save.
wish I wish I knew about your services 8 months ago.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's never too late. And you know, it might, well, if it is, but you still need support. I put
Yes.
my link in the chat along with my email address,
Yep.
please. And my, you know, my website, I can put that in there too. Hit me up because I will help you. I try out other workshops. I have a monthly kind of divorce support workshop, and a lot of times I'll bring in other professionals who can, you know, add insight and bring their expertise to the people who come. So it's not just me always there. And I write a lot. I'm sorry?
Close at 8.
We close at 7.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
No,
funny. Are there any other questions before we sign off? Okay. Sounds like not. Thanks for showing up. I'd love feedback if you guys want to hit me up and say that was helpful or that was not helpful, or let's do another one on parenting plans. Just let me know. We can keep doing it.
I'm super thankful. That was definitely helpful as a place to start. I just scheduled another consultation with you that
Oh, great. Good.
I do have more questions, but I would be here for hours and I don't want to waste your time or anyone else's. So
Aw, hang in there, you guys. You're going to get through it. And I will tell you that it feels so good to
Thank you
get
so
through
much.
it. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Bye-bye. Have a good
Hey,
evening.
bye. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.